position. Any Power at the last race down. Any Power has gone but in front of the last left. Melody Light by the first time. They're running up towards the finish, and he's mistaken the winning post. He's mistaken the winning post completely. Roger Lockwood and Hoyt Floyd. Yeah, from Archibald. Hardy Eustace defends his title. From Archibald, he's flattened out in second. Then he's followed up right by his beginning to come. He's drifting off the true line. He heads for Hammer's Whiskey home. Swings the gun. Gonna win his fourth Betfair chase, and Cordo Star is still the king. Cordo Star wins.
Banter.
Yeah,
All
I want you to
aboard
read that
the
top
banter
shaggers,
bus.
though. Get the top shaggers bit in there.
Top Shagger.
Top shagger.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tailed Off, episode number 27. As a reminder, this is a no-holds-barred podcast that dives headfirst into the wonderfully weird world of horse racing. I'm joined with my good mates, Duncan and Elliot. How are we doing, boys?
Evening.
Oi, oi. All good, mate? How are we?
All good, all good. Not enjoying the weather, but there we go. That's UK for you.
It's improved here. It's supposed to be lovely tomorrow and Saturday.
Oh, really? Nice.
There's your weather
Good.
watch.
Well, there's
Job
your weather.
done.
And
Let's
that's
go
it.
home.
Thank you very
Let's
much.
go
That's a
home.
wrap.
I am done.
I can tell you it was good to boggy at the over last night.
Yeah, good to
Surprised we
bogey.
got any cricket.
It looked fucking terrible.
I'm very surprised you got some cricket yesterday.
I know.
I was too many pints deep by the time the cricket started, though.
You could
No
have just
surprise.
watching anything. Yeah, yeah.
How many
Fair,
pints
fair.
did you had before the cricket started?
Probably.
What level?
I think I had two in my hand when the cricket started. It could have been 6 or 7, depending on which one you were counting.
Jesus.
Excellent. That's what we like
Just a
to
normal
hear.
Wednesday night. He bloody loves it.
Yeah.
Right. What we're covering today. So we're doing a breeding success deep dive, aka top shaggers.
Yeah,
so we're
there
going to
we
get
go.
into that a bit later. Before then, we'll cover call out, see how he's getting on. We'll do a bit of news and a rat corner, Stewards Enquiry, and then we'll go down to Laytown, racing on the beach. Well, I don't know what that's about. Then we'll do a
Cool,
deep
baby.
dive and we'll do a quick preview and a few tips ahead of Haydock this weekend. So let's get on to call out. It's been a couple of weeks actually since we had an update. What's going on? What's the latest?
Finally, a positive update. It's been a while since
Hey,
we had
that's what we
good
like to
talk about
see.
with Call Out. He ran last Thursday, so a week ago at Chelmsford. Sadly, couldn't be there. It was an afternoon meeting, but he had raced on the all-weather for his previous trainer and actually finished third. So there was always kind of a bit of hope that a bit of a change of scenery might spark him up to life again. And good old Neil Callum was back on board, who has won on him and come second on him. So definitely got the best record on him. Even though he's a little bit disparaging about the horse's attitude at times, which annoys me. You can't argue with his record on the horse. Something I've been crying out for since we kind of got the horse was that we've gradually moved from being last to sort of mid-division to then prominent. And now finally we made the run-in where, you know, he's got the visor on. He clearly is a bit of a thinker and a bit of a sulker when the going gets tough. So sometimes I think, especially on wet ground, being at the back, he kind of spits the dummy out and gives it up basically. But this
Sounds
day
like his
he,
own.
Bit of a sulker.
Yeah.
I love that.
hey, bastard. He actually he pinged the gates pretty well. He was a bit sluggish after that, but then Neil just dug into him, got him out at the front. Never really saw another horse for most of the race. 2 furlongs out, I thought he's going to bloody win because he was tanking away, but he'd obviously worked quite hard throughout the race to keep that front position. And just in the dying sort of few hundred yards, not the favourite, the second favourite, but one of the more fancied horses came by him. And credit to him, I thought at that stage, like 4 horses were coming from the back. I thought they're all just going to pass him and he'll end up 5th again and it'll kind of be nothing to show for it. But credit to him, he plugged on, and really annoyingly, Rogue Officer under bloody Luke Morris managed to join him on the line for second. So he was technically joint second as opposed to just second outright, which means slightly less money back in the pocket. But just great to see that we still have a horse that wants to race, because we were starting to give up on him. So looks like
Yeah,
we will
nice.
probably target another all-weather meeting in the not-too-distant future, possibly even next Saturday.
So
Here we go.
he went off for 16s, was that? Nice.
Yeah, he was around... Yeah, I think he went out to 12s in the morning, so I actually
Yeah.
had a nice each-way bet on him, which is the first time he's
Yeah.
been profitable for a while.
It's paying back in many ways.
Yeah.
First time cash. Yeah, nice. Well, that's good. Well, fingers crossed. Well, I don't know. Like, what's the longer term plan? Do you know? You got any thoughts?
Well, basically, since we got him, we kind of said summer turf season, although ironically he's now an all-weather horse. That's gone well.
That's gone well.
I think we always earmarked as a horses in training sale in October, and I think we'd already kind of earmarked that from the start to say, as long as he runs to some level, you could get what you paid for him back. And obviously, after his second and first, we might have made closer to 20k back then.
Okay.
Because the horse that he kept running against, what was the name of that horse? He had a weird name, didn't he? Duncan? Not Adjudicator or something like that, but...
Oh, yeah. Well, the one that Safi Osborne used to ride. Yeah.
I can't remember. But they kept beating each other, and that horse sold for 20k, and we'd obviously beaten it. So at that time, it looked like he might make a bit of money, but then when he started bombing out, me and Pete were like, is anybody going to even buy him, even for a few grand?
Yeah.
But now he's got another second. I think there's enough there. He's a 3-year-old that we might get some money back for him. So that's the plan. And
okay.
I'm already on the phone to Jack about
Mr. Ubiquitous.
That's
the
the
name
one.
of the horse.
Ubiquitous.
Good comms. So yeah, there might be another horse replacing him for next season.
Oh, here we
Plans
go.
are in place. Yeah.
I was
Horse
talking
hasn't even
to
left the yard yet, and he's already looking for a replacement. So horrible bastard.
I was talking to a friend of
It's
mine
business.
who's missing the syndicate life. So you could have some interest.
Okay.
What we thinking?
2 words: Royal Ascot.
Yeah.
2 words. Right.
Those
Not
words
winners
came
included
out-
at Royal Ascot. Just Royal Ascot will do.
Those
I'm
words
in
came
that
out of
case.
Jack's mouth. Don't shoot the messenger. Royal Ascot, baby.
You have my attention. All right. Good. Thanks, El. Good to see callouts moving forward and not getting tailed off too much. Right. Let's get on to Anorak Corner. Should we start with you then, Duncan? You got something?
Yeah, it's not necessarily Anorak Corner, to be fair. It's more of a news piece from me. We know we leave Anorak Corner to El these days.
That is
it's more
true.
me for
Sorry,
the news,
you can cover the news.
Don't tar me with that brush now. Yeah, no, it's actually quite positive news for Frankie Dettori, the man, the myth, the legend that is. 54 years old. He had quite a weekend over in Nashville for the Nashville Derby. He went out and won the Nashville Derby with the Wimbledon Hawkeye, which was... It's a $3.5 million race, but it's $1.5 million of that only goes apparently to Kentucky-bred horses, which I didn't realise. So he actually won a $2 million pot instead, which is nothing to be scorned at. So he got up by a head, which was obviously very, very nice for him and lovely to see. And then he followed that up on the Sunday at the same track with a 4-timer. So I think there was a 10-1, 9-1, a 6-1, and a 6-4 that went in, and he won the $1 million juvenile sprint in the last race. So yeah, he's rolling back the years, and he's had quite a turnaround considering he was listed bankrupt not so long ago.
He's
Bankrupt.
not bankrupt. So I thought he was retired. He's not retired.
Say again.
I thought he was retired.
I think he was kind of looking at retirement. He obviously left the UK, but then decided to go over to the US and try his hand over there. And I think he was part of. Did he do a documentary piece about him going over there?
Well, there's that Netflix series called Race to the Crown.
Yeah, and I think they cover little bits of him kind of.
He's on that.
There.
Yeah.
So he was apparently quoted as saying that after he'd had the success on Wimbledon Hawkeye that. One of his best friends died apparently a couple of weeks ago in Dubai, and he was considering quitting then. But he said his mate basically wouldn't want him to have done, so he's kind of carried on and duly delivered with some big races. So good on Frankie. It's good to see him back on the stage. Never know, he might be a Royal Ascot for one last shebang next year.
All right, good. Thanks, Duncan. Let's get on to you then, El. You got some? Is this news or Anorak Corner? Which one?
It's all under the same umbrella, mate. But.
Right.
I would say arguably this is more news related.
Yeah, I'd say it's news.
So this is Thurles Racecourse, which we covered a few weeks ago with the shock announcement that it was set to close. It's the last remaining privately owned racecourse in Ireland, so owned by the Maloney family, and they've owned it since the early 20th century, so a lot of history there for that family. As you can imagine, the business of running a racecourse is tough in this economic climate. And I don't know whether, looking back on now what's happened, whether this was a little bit of a poker play by them, because they just dropped, rather than sort of getting the begging cup out and asking for support, they just decided to shut the racecourse without telling anybody. And so HRI were obviously a little bit surprised and disgruntled by that announcement. Since then, there's just been mass support. I mean, the likes of Willie Mullins did a really passionate interview on Racing TV last week or the week before, where he was just saying, courses like Thurles, we can't afford to lose as an industry. And it supports the top quality horses as well as, your lower level kind of class 6 and class 5 horses. And the HRI have stepped in, and obviously we don't know the details of the negotiations, but they've taken control of the racecourse, and the fixtures, the 11 fixtures that were scheduled to run from October to March, are now going to take place, which is great news, because once courses go, they very rarely go back. We lost Halster and Folkestone in this country in recent years, and they've never made it back. And it would be a shame if this did close permanently. So I imagine the HRI are putting the coffers up to support it until further notice, and at least get through next season. And we'll see what happens after that. But good news that Thurles has got a stay of execution.
How much to buy?
Well
do you
done.
think?
How much?
How
It's
much?
not Monopoly. Horse racing Monopoly. Cash go and you can win Thurles.
What do you think?
It's going to be millions to buy the business and the land. I mean, the land is
just
probably
the land.
worth loads for development, which is probably what they had their eye on. It's not far from the sort of town centre, but the costs of it, I can't say they make a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll wait until they're really desperate and we can get some tailed off
Put an offer
money
in.
in there.
Showed off sponsorship for it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, good. Thanks, El. Duncan, you got some more news?
Yeah, kind of going from Frankie's success to the polar opposite with Ryan Moore now. He's broken his leg and will miss the rest of the flat season. Very, very bad news for Aidan O'Brien, who's obviously, Ryan Moore rides all their big favourites in Ireland and obviously UK and over in France as well, the big races. It's come out this week that O'Brien's kind of gone to the market and was looking for a kind of, the new number one jockey for the rest of the season, which I just assumed would be Wayne Norden, because Wayne Norden's their number 2 at Ballydoyle. But no, apparently not. Wayne Norden wasn't the right man, so he's enlisted the support of the Frenchman Christophe Soumignon to replace him. So yeah, kind of gutted a bit for Wayne Norden. I don't know what you think about it, El. I thought it would just kind of be a step up for him. I know he's apparently he's got a whip ban for, I think, a week or 10 days. So we'll miss some of the key races, but I just assumed that Wayne Norden would step in. But no, apparently not.
Yeah, it's tough. I imagine he'll still get some decent rides, but when you've got
You'd
the
think
likes
so.
of... I mean, for example, if Frankie was still in this country, 100%, they'd call him up because they've used him before.
Really.
I think the owners particularly like the allure of a big name jockey. And no disrespect to Wayne Norden, but he's not really that.
True. Very true. But yeah, I mean, gutted for a bit for him, but some of the races, I mean, there's some massive races that Ryan will miss, just in the coming week alone. Well, next weekend, we've got the St. Ledger at Doncaster, and the same day, you've got the Irish Champion Stakes. And I always thought that with the jumps jockeys, they can't, if they're at one course for the day, they can't then go somewhere else to go to another course and ride elsewhere. But apparently they can on the flat, it seems. Like Ryan Moore did it last year. He rode
They can't on the flat within the same jurisdiction, but of course, Irish racing is different to UK racing, so that's a bit of a
So he's
loophole.
literally allowed, because he did it last year. He did St. Ledger and then went straight back over to Ireland for a couple of hours later for the Irish Champion Stakes. So he was jet setting there. But just looking at some of the races, so like the Group 1s, Group 2s, so you've got the St. Ledger, the Irish Champion Stakes, the Moyglare, which is the following day at Curragh, and then the Irish St. Ledger the following day after that. The Cheveley Park and Middle Park Stakes at Newmarket on the 27th. And then the massive one is obviously the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe long shot on the 5th of October. And then finally the British Champions Day, which is on the 18th of October. So he misses all of those big races. But Christophe Soumignon must be rubbing his hands together at the thought of hopefully picking up a couple of winners. But it'd be interesting to see, once Wayne Norden's back, how that works. So obviously I know that Christophe Soumignon has ridden from before, but obviously Wayne Norden knows, you'd expect, the horse is a lot better than he will. But yeah, gutted for Ryan Moore.
How did he break his leg?
I don't know if it was kind of, he was already slightly injured his leg during one of the rides that he had previously, and then I think it was exacerbated by that even further, but I don't know what the full details of it were.
Sounded like he was riding in pain for a while, and had various injections and stuff to try and help him along, but then when you have an injury like that, you just have to pull stumps at some point and say, I need surgery.
For sure.
This is why jockeys are another level, though, isn't it? Like, riding with a freaking broken leg and all that kind of stuff. It's just like, what other sport would you know that you could do that?
Well, it's like
Cycling.
AP when AP McCoy, when he was on track for the first time ever to get 300 winners in the season, which would have just been unbelievable. he actually broke his collarbone and then rode 2 winners the next day because he was just so relentless to try and pursue that championship. And then
That is mental.
eventually had to give up. But it was just like, imagine riding with a broken collarbone.
I know.
That's a sport that you can't really do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not many sports you can.
You can.
It can.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Thanks, Duncan. That's the news then. Let's get on to Stewards Enquiry.
So what happens at the photo finish?
Stewards Enquiry.
So, Cowboy Ortiz. What's going on out there?
Ortiz, yeah. So
Ortiz.
The clip that you will hopefully post for the viewers was a bit of a mad incident at the weekend on Sunday over in Saratoga in America. So the Group 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup's a pretty prestigious race on the dirt in Saratoga. You'll see from the clip that as they've broken the gates, they've all come a little bit together, and then there's basically a bit of a domino effect that happens from left to right with Phileas Fogg knocking into another horse and then knocking into the horse that Irad Ortiz Jr. was riding. As you're reacting to it while you're watching it, he is then like, oh crap, I'm going to be fucking knocked out of my saddle here. Decides to momentarily try and nick the other guy's horse next to it. Basically, you see him actually try and jump on the back of the other horse, and that jockey in the middle is like, fuck off, throws it back the other way. And then he just sort of like caught between the two horses and then eventually just goes, bye, and just plunges to the ground, which we can laugh about.
If he successfully
wasn't.
jumped on that horse and you think got top 3 or something, what would have happened?
Probably
I think they'd have to disqualify it, even though it makes it harder.
The horse shouldn't be just like.
I know.
The horse still got 3rd or something.
I don't know if that's ever happened before, so I don't know if there's a rule for it.
They should make a rule.
Just giving me images of, I don't know if you've ever seen The Mask of Zorro when he's like riding horses and he's jumping on the back of other horses and riding them along. It just kind of, as soon as I saw it, I thought, this just looks like that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Thankfully, he's okay, but that was a pretty mad incident. And the horse that obviously caused the chain reaction was disqualified. And I dare say the jockey would have come in for a bit of punishment as well after that.
Unlucky.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll post that. Have a look. Have a giggle. Right. Racing on the beach. What's all that about?
Well, we're not going to probably cover it in too much detail, but it was these things. It's just a once a year mad event. And I thought we can't let this week go by without at least touching on a place called Laytown, which is in the east coast of Ireland, in County Meath, just a little bit north of Dublin, and a couple of pictures that hopefully you'll post up. Is really
Life's
just
a beach. Love it.
It is mad. I mean, you do get some kind of amateur racing and point-to-point racing. And when I was in Ireland, we randomly drove past a racecourse in Dingle that has races on for 3 days of the year, and it looks like the real thing, but they're not classified under the rules of racing. However, for some mad reason, Laytown is, so it's all official. Wow. They all have the rules of racing, they all have the handicaps, and the proper trainers and jockeys have horses, etc. And it's been going on since 1868, so it's a long-held tradition. It's obviously a bit, I don't know if anyone's been to Weston-super-Mare, but kind of a big, massive beachfront. When the tide recedes, obviously there's a reason why it's this time of year, because it gives them the most beach to race on. They literally have a couple of hours once the tide goes out to scramble the course together, put up some rails, put up the winning post and get the stalls in there and all sorts. And there's a big bank on the side of the beach where all the spectators gather together, and there's around 5,000 that go each year. So it does seem like a pretty mad event. And that happened today. If you're watching tomorrow, it's Thursday. And I just thought it was a bit of a mad thing that happens each year, and I thought it would be worth giving a shout out to Laytown, because just looking at that first picture, it just looks mental.
It's
mental. Like Worcester on a good day.
yeah, there's Worcester racing.
Like Haydock in the jump season, that is.
I was going to say that'll be Haydock on Saturday.
It's I didn't even consider you have to wait until the tide's out and then you've got to quickly put everything up. Like that alone is mental, isn't it?
Hope there's not a tsunami just comes along and washes them out. But apparently they used to have They used to have a U-bank, like a big circuit, so they used to race as far as 2 miles. And then one year in the mid-90s, there was a horse that got spooked, basically shot off the course and then sort of mowed down a few spectators. They decided that probably wasn't a good idea.
Good old Irish health and safety.
They've decided to put up safety barriers since then.
I love that. Instead of stopping the event or change it, they just thought that's just not do a U-bend. Yeah.
That second photo that we've got in there, that little is it fence, whatever you can call it, the people are
Yeah.
behind. Please don't tell me that like the horses are literally next door to that.
No, I believe there's another rail, like a normal
Okay.
traditional horse
Okay,
race.
God,
Yeah, I was
that.
thinking that as well. I was like, is that the fence they put up?
It wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me remotely if they did something like that, though. Yeah, it's all right. They'll be safe. No problem.
Yeah.
Good old Laytown.
Yeah, right.
Lovely. All right. Yeah, thanks for that. That's quite interesting. Right. Let's get on to a little deep dive then, shall we? We won't spend too long on this, but I think it's quite an interesting topic to cover. And you boys, this is another rabbit hole that you often go into when you're looking at the race cards. And again, if anyone's missed the race card deep dive, we did that in week like 3 or 4 or something. So go back and watch that. We're going to get into breeding history and breeding approach and what it all means and the seasons. So yeah, do you want to get into it there now?
Yeah, sure thing. And this is a very deep rabbit hole. So, and to be honest, it goes even beyond my vast knowledge of horse racing. It's still an area that I'm learning as we go. But I do find it quite fascinating because the thoroughbred industry, that's the species we're talking about. They're thoroughbreds. They're not just any old horse. Is a protected species, and they've been breeding racehorses for 300 years from the first stallions that were actually Arabian all the way through. And there's very strict guidelines around what horses can be bred. So they have to be of a certain quality, a certain standard. So that means that they can be called a thoroughbred. And as a result, the output, what are called the progeny, the foals that hit the ground each year, it is very scientific. Now, it doesn't always work, and you can get kind of inspiring matches that turn and produce superstars, and you can get absolute blue bloods, as they're called, costing 3 million quid at the sales, turn out to be absolute duds. So it's not an exact science, but a lot of money is involved, as Duncan will cover in a bit. And I would say, as a given rule, although obviously breeding is important for jumps, it's much more of a thing and a consideration on the flat. And if you're having a bet, and particularly with younger horses who haven't got a lot of racecourse experience, so your 2 and 3 year olds, looking at what's called their page, which we've got a picture of here, is basically their family tree. You can understand what their parents have done, what their grandparents have done, and also what their siblings have done, if they have any. And then you can sort of infer between all that information what kind of horse you might be dealing with, whether it be a 2-year-old that's precocious, which means it's ready to go earlier in its career, whether it's a late developing type, or a stayer, or a sprinter, or like soft ground, quick ground, and that sort of thing. So as I say, it's a mad rabbit hole, but just a couple of stats on the season and the breeding itself. So the breeding season is mid-February to the end of June. So that's when mares are what's called covered by the stallions. And it's
Shagger.
And it's quite a strict window because the pregnancy is it's around 11 months, so just under a year. And basically all racehorses have the same birthday, which is the 1st of January. Because on the flat particularly, the races are split into age groups a lot more.
Matt's face of literally like, yeah.
So every year,
I'm out.
On New Year's Day every year, 10,000 horses get a little candle. Happy birthday, everyone!
Explain that to a kid.
It's like the Queen, basically. They have a birthday and a real birthday. It's very important. The reason sounds mad, but if a horse was born, let's say on the 2nd of February, its birthday is still the 1st of January, because each season on the flat, you need to have your definite 2-year-olds, your definite 3-year-olds, and 4-year-olds and above, etc.
Yeah.
You can't have a horse that was foaled in, as they can go as late as May, it tends to not be that late. And a 2-year-old race happen in April, but the horse, if all horses were allowed to have their actual birthday, it would still be a 1-year-old technically, or a yearling, and it couldn't run in a race. So they basically said, if they're born in the same year, they're all 1, 2, and 3-year-olds, to just keep it simple and make sure that they can qualify for the right races. So what that means is a lot of breeders are trying to breed as close to February as possible, because if they're born in January, they are much closer to that actual birthday, especially on like a 2-year-old. They have developed much more quickly than a horse, let's say, that was born in May. So whenever you look at it in the Race Post app and you're looking at a 2-year-old race, you might often see it's a late foal or early foal. And a late foal would be kind of end of April, early May, because those difference in months for a young horse's development can be significant. So they always try and target as early in the season as possible so that they maximize their actual age, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it does make sense. I understand why there's a cutoff basically to when you can assign your birthday, your birth year. Yeah. Okay. It's a bit
And
like
then-
school. It's about school terms, isn't it? Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Language I can
that's probably a good
understand.
way of looking at it. We're in a school year
Yeah.
together, but
Yeah.
we might actually have birthdays across different years. But actually,
Correct.
it's just a way of grouping an age of youngsters together. I won't dive into this picture, but this shows you how complex it can be. This is what's called the page. This is what's called its breeding, essentially. So this is a horse that...
And we're looking at the old oldie worldy, looks like a very legal document, yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's produced. And there's a couple of things that you would have heard of if I explain this. So this is actually the horse that I'm looking to get involved in.
I thought this was going to be the one.
Here we
I was
go.
looking at it, I
Here's a
was like,
little plug.
I saw Sergei Prokofiev. Sergei House. I thought, I swear to God, this is the one that Elle was referring to me at the weekend. I was like, this seems very suspicious.
But it's quite handy because Pete actually sent me this recently. So I was like, aha, I want to use that. So this horse is literally a yearling. So hasn't even been named. Hence why in the top left-hand corner, it says bay colt, which is the colour, and it's a colt because cherries. And then you basically get 3 generations of their parents, if you like. They're called sires for the dad and mares, or dams for the mother. So you can see the first 2, the pairing, and then obviously they have 4 then because the grandparents, and then it's called the great-granddams and grandsires. They're further back. So you can sort of see how, if you recognise some of these horses, so for example, Scat Daddy was a really good American horse, and then you can go further back and you might recognise a few more. And what it then does further down is it tells you a bit more information about, they tend to focus on the mare side because they believe that kind of follows on much more to what the progeny will actually go to deliver. And you'll see down this page, there's quite a lot of bold in black, and that's what's called the infamous black type. So whenever you might hear a trainer of particularly a filly, because this is all the dams, running in a listed race, and they might say, we're just trying to get some black type. Basically, because this is a lot of information, you're looking for a breed, people that are buying at the sales are looking for a quick way to sort out the better horses. So when they put in bold, if a horse has won at a class 1 level, so listed or above, if it's in capitals, it's won that race. And if it's in lowercase, but still bold, it's come placed in that race, and that's called small black type. So yeah, a bit of a rabbit hole. But on the second picture, we're actually looking at the favourite for the big race we're going to preview on Saturday. And I'm not expecting anyone to look at the first picture and actually utilise it, but it just shows you what's there. But this is from the Racing Post app, and this is one thing that me and Duncan will use quite a lot when we're looking at flat horses particularly, because it's probably less, the breeding is less of a science over jumps. It's more about literally if they can jump. So we're looking here. So if you expand the pedigree section, you get a little drop down. You get the sire, the dam, and then the dam sire, which is obviously the mother's dad. And it tells you in brackets the average winning distance that the sons and daughters of those horses have won over. So actually, this Lazat, which is a 6 furlong Group 1 winner, if you'd not told me that and you just showed me this and said, what sort of trip would this horse get? I would say probably a mile to 10 furlongs, because 8 furlongs there is a mile and 11 furlongs is sort of nearly a mile and a half. So it's actually quite surprising that he's performing so well over 6, and they actually started him over further. But as I say, it's not always an exact science. So often me and Duncan will use this to work out if a horse is going up or down in trip, whether based on the breeding, it gives you confidence or not that it's likely to cope with that. And then there's always a little comment underneath which shows you if it's, particularly if it's got any siblings that have done quite well. That's always a good sign for.
You can also see in that as well, from what Elle was saying earlier on, just under the name Lazat, you can see in brackets the date, and that's when it was.
Yeah, that's
Horse
good
was actually
shout.
born, so 3rd of April.
So that's technically
So
quite
that's
a
a
late
late.
one.
That's kind of more
That
of
is
a late
quite
one.
late. They've done well there, haven't they?
But it
Yeah,
just shows
definitely.
why, as a 4-year-old, he's actually starting to come into his own now.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the really early ones fizzle out
It's
quite
so
quick.
baffling. Exactly what you said. Weirdly, I saw the screenshot and I went in and had a look at the Zap, and I was just like, when I went into like Australia won a derby, which is over 1 mile 4, and you think Lazat's running over 6 furlongs, which is near enough the shortest sprint trip you can get. Just like it
Yeah.
just almost just doesn't make sense. But
Yeah.
like you say, it's not an exact
Interesting.
science, as I've said.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting rabbit hole, isn't it? But I think it's I guess it's one of those things that could just like edge a horse over another horse, one horse over another horse, and
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Elle and I were talking about this on Saturday, funnily enough, and I'd only tend to use this in betting if you're betting on, like, let's say the real kind of second, third maybe even just first time out, like when horses are first running. Just like you said, have a look at when they were born, like actually legitimately born, and then will they want the trip, or did they win? Because obviously you can see on the, like, if you click into like the sire and the dam sire, you can see how well they performed throughout their careers. So if you got a 2-year-old race, which obviously most of these will run at 2, did their dam and the dam sire, did any of them win as a 2-year-old? Because then that could also potentially be a good view to whether or not this horse might be capable of winning.
Yeah.
One thing I would say on this is that, like we've always said with our punting tips, they're not black and white rules. So the biggest mistakes I think you can make in punting is always yes or always no to something, like a jockey or a trainer or whatever. And there's been so many times I've looked at the horse's breeding and gone, won't stay, or the other way, won't be quick enough. And what's much more important is what they show you on the racecourse. So even though I'd look at his Lazat's breeding and say he shouldn't be quick enough for 6 furlongs, he's proven he is. So don't let that dictate your complete punting.
It wouldn't put
It's
you
just
off
another piece,
or be
another
the
piece
main
of the puzzle.
thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, good. So you got some info, Duncan, on fees.
On the top shaggers.
How much
are you charging for the shaggers? Then? Who's the top shagger?
Again, all depends on, you know, how well the horses have performed, not in the shagging sense of it, but obviously on the track. So yeah, exactly that. So I've pulled, and I'm sure Matt, you can put on the pictures we've got. So I put the UK flat stallion fees and then the Irish flat stallion fees as the main ones on there, because let's be honest, that's where the main money is. I had a look at the jumps side of it, but the money is, well, it doesn't even touch where these guys are. So if you're looking at from a UK perspective, the top stallion fees at the moment are with Frankel and Dubawi. And for a cover to be done for one of them is 350 grand a go. So one shag is 350 grand. Although I did find out.
Sorry.
Go for it, mate. Sorry.
No, is that that's just a shag, but I guess they don't always have 100% success rate, do they?
I don't think so. And this is one of the things weirdly that Ellen and I were talking about. I said, you know, what if the horse doesn't get pregnant? Like, does that mean 350 grand's just been thrown away? There's actually a thing that says no foal, no fee. So it's almost like one of those things, no win, no fee. Exactly. No likey, no lighty.
Like it. Nice. Good.
So,
I'm glad I thought of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's mental though when you look at the prices there. But I think the main one, I mean, the ones we've got here, 350 is the top rated ones. And you go into like Kingman, which is like third most expensive, 125 grand. But on the Irish side of things, which is the one I find ridiculously staggering, is in like all of the 14 that we've got listed on there. So that's the top to bottom, and the top 14. You've got Coolmore, who you'll probably hear us mention, people, if anyone listens to this. More have a lot of horses ownership, so they have like the purple and white silks of Ireland, mainly with Aidan O'Brien. They obviously have an absolute machine going on over there, because they've got 6 of the top 14 stallions currently, with their top one being Wotton Bassett, 300 grand ago. So, you know, if you manage to get a horse, like, you know, I think, like you say, the dream is to own a stallion that does well as a 2, potentially 3-year-old that you can take off to stud. That's where you make your money, is by, you can charge obscene fees like this for the top rated horse. I mean, so 300 grand, those kinds of ones, you are literally talking about the creme de la creme here, horses that are just win after win after win. They're just bulletproof. But still, you know, even at the bottom there, you got like August Rodan, still 30 grand to go. But to kind of put it into perspective, I had a look at, I'll quickly touch upon the costing, the fees overall first for like Frankel, before I kind of touch on the top performing sires. But I had a quick look over Frankel's last 3 years performing as a stud. And in 2022, he covered 232 mares at the cost of 200 grand. 2023, and he covered 196, so he was down on performance there. But he was covering at 275. And then in 2024, he covered 192, but at 350 grand. So total it all up, and his 3-year gross for that period was 167.5 million pounds. So you can really see where the money goes, how
That's
these,
where
you
the
know,
money is.
Juddmonte and that, and Coolmore, for example. I mean, they must have money for days that they can just throw at these, like buying new horses and just kind of just keep that money train rolling constantly. It's just mental.
But do they have to? They obviously have to prove themselves first.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like you can throw the money, and actually, if you look at the returns on that, that's best case. But if you chuck a couple of mil, you're trying to buy a couple of horses that can win, and then they win a couple of times, then go straight to becoming a sire.
Yeah.
Then that is where you get your returns, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. So you'll hear sometimes in interviews. So I think like City of Troy, for example, which is another one of the Coolmore horses. So he was top 2-year-old, won the Derby, didn't he? City of Troy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he won the Derby, and they kept him on for the year, but now he's gone off to stud. So after 3 years old, if they will protect their. If you're an owner and a trainer to a degree, the owners want to protect that, their performances on the track. So if they've just got ones next to their name and they go from potentially a 3-year-old to a 4-year-old, they could potentially be exposed as not training on to be a 4-year-old. So if they lose that, that winners thing, it kind of dilutes what they could make from stud fees. So you'll probably find that some of these horses will have been sent to stud after being 2, so they won't even go to 3. But you'd hope that some of them, will go for 2, 3, and 4, like a Frankel, for example. But yeah, it's mental. The more races they win, obviously, the more fees, more of a fee they can take for them.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
business that is.
It's unfortunate though that, as Duncan says, that it has a negative impact on the flat season. So
yeah,
that is one of the reasons why the jumps is more popular with fans, because they see their stars coming back season after season and bashing heads.
Okay.
Whereas the flat horses, as soon as, especially Coolmore, as soon as they got a whiff of one potentially being a stallion, they wrap it in cotton wool and they'll dodge big clashes or the ground's a bit soft. They certainly are very reluctant, or they've got a little bit better at keeping them on at 4 years old, because once you've proven you can do it at 3, you don't really need to do it at 4, but it just robs the racing fan of, some big
seeing the best
competitive action. Exactly. So it's a bit of a shame.
interesting.
And when they retire at 2, I just think that is mental.
What's the point?
Yeah.
What is the point?
Well,
What was it,
point
Delacroix
is
they're talking about?
167 million return. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Delacroix. So he's kind of one of the horses at the moment for Coolmore, and they're already talking about after this season they're going to send him off to stud. So he hasn't won every race, but he's been pretty good. He won at Sandown last time out when I was there for the Solario Stakes. So yeah, obviously a very decent horse, but they're going to protect him now and send him off to stud. I don't know what fees they'll be claiming for him, but I imagine it'll be up there. But like I said, because City of Troy is only 75 grand, for example, because he's going to be a first-year sire. Whether you've got the top ones in there are like Wootton Bassett, who's a proven. The horses that come from Wootton Bassett are proven to be decent horses, so he's got the good pedigrees. Whether in a year or two's time, if City of Troy has actually produced like some decent horses that have actually gone on to win good races, watch that fee go up from 75 grand into the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
So it's almost better to try and get on one now with City of Troy if you've got the money, to see what happens in a couple of years.
I remember that when
you're rolling in it from the podcast, Matt, when we've got all the sponsorship under the sun, we do what we like.
Oh yeah,
a man can dream. But then the other angle I did have a look at that Elle asked about was top performing flat sires.
Yeah.
So again, I had a quick look back through some of the history back from 2010, and I know these names will be ones that Elle will very much recognise. But if you look back at 2010, it was basically a dynasty for a horse called Galileo, which was, funnily enough, another Coolmore horse, and basically went 11 years straight as being the top performing flat sire. So he really was top shagger. Of all time, basically. He won obviously derbies, and he's produced derby winners. So that is kind of the main horse. I think it's the last crop from Galileo was
this season.
Was it
the
last
3-year-old?
Was it this season or last year?
Yeah, last season was the last 2-year-olds.
Yeah. So the dynasty has moved on since, and after 2020 you then move into kind of Frankel, who's had a couple of years at the top, who's funnily enough a son of Galileo, which then again tells you everything you need to know. If Galileo was that good, and then Frankel was now the top top stud fees for the UK. It tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
And then you move into like Dubai. We had a year of it, which is again why he charges so much for a shag. But then the most recent one from 2024 was a horse called Dark Angel, who I didn't actually really know much about. I don't know. Is that
He's been around a while.
Is that? I'm just trying to think. I haven't looked at. Is it Godolphin or is that just is it a Rogie Bear?
Godolphin, I've got him. Yeah,
it is a Godolphin one. But yeah, I mean, first time champion from last year, made earnings of 4.8 million euros across the course of last season from the North side. So it's a pretty decent game to be in if you're.
It's a good game. It's really
that.
interesting though, isn't it? Because it's sort of like it's the longer term business side, isn't it? Of training and racing a winner, and it doesn't stop there, does it? The winning, obviously, you get good prize money, and you know, maybe I don't know, sponsorship and stuff, but the real longer term value is this really, isn't it? So,
exactly that. And I think Elle cornered it. I can't remember how long ago when we spoke about the flat is seen as kind of the more sexier, you know, type of racing compared to the jump side of things.
Yeah.
And it proves it when you look at the jump side of things. The fees for, like, in the British side of the stud fees, the most expensive one you can get is 12.5 grand for a jump sire. So, you know, it clearly shows that it really isn't sexy.
One of the main reasons why that is because big money owners haven't got the patience. And you're not going to see a jumps horse for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
No,
so they don't want to be spending 300k for a foal.
Yeah.
I got a bit mixed up. Dark Angel. I was thinking of Harry Angel. Dark Angel's with the Yeomanstown stud in Ireland.
Okay.
Was that very well?
So was that the stud? But who was the owners? Same owners as the? Is it the same owners that had the stud as well?
Hold the line.
No. Okay. We'll come back.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't Godolphin. No,
I was going to say I didn't know if it was Godolphin. Dark Angel. I've got all I'm thinking of is like the dark grey colours with like a star in the centre of the chest. Is the silks I'm thinking of? I don't know why.
No, I think
probably got that very wrong. Yeah, probably. But anyway,
he raced in like 2007, so I don't think you'd remember him.
Probably not.
Yeah. Interesting.
Probably not.
Thanks, boys. Pleasure as always. Thank you for the news. Anorak Corner, the deep dive into Top Shaggers and the Haydock preview for this weekend. Appreciate it.
Crack of the day.
And crack of the day. Thank you for tuning in. That's a wrap. Please comment and let us know what you're liking about this podcast and what you'd like to cover next time. And don't forget, we are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and we're also on social media, Instagram, TikTok, and X. And please drop us an email. We don't get too much hate. We don't get too much hate, but we are very diverse and accepting of all kinds of comments and ideas here at Tailed Off. Until next time, race hard, race smart, try not to be tailed off. Cheers, guys. Cheers.
Great sign off.
Cheers.
Position. Any power at the last race down. Any power of Scotland in front of the last lens. Melody Light the first time. They're running up towards the finish. And he's mistaken the winning post. He's mistaken the winning post completely, Roger Loughlin. And Hoyt